The Supreme Court delivered a verdict today on the stay against the Biden administration's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. In a vote of 6-3, the High Court has, for now, blocked the mandate, finding it unconstitutional. However, in a separate decision, it allows vaccine mandates for healthcare workers. Friends, time for Hold the Line. Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. Been a rough week for the Biden regime, that's for sure. You've had SINEMA in the Senate shut down the idea of breaking the filibuster for the voting rights reform. You've got Biden's poll numbers somewhere in the low 30s right now in terms of overall approval. Independents, 20%, something like that, approval. I mean, it's just stunning to see how they are in total collapse right now. The Biden bots all running around trying to make sense of this. They don't know what the propaganda line's even supposed to be. And Biden gave his big speech and people said, what the heck was that? It was outrageous. And then today, the Supreme Court has blocked Biden's vaccine mandate for over 80 million workers across the country. The vote was 6-3 with Justices Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan dissenting. Of course, the activist libs don't care about freedom or the Constitution on the court. They just want to give the MSNBC watching, New York Times subscribing audience what they want. Doesn't matter how much they have to trample on basic constitutionally protected rights and just basic governance. Doesn't matter. They just want what they want. Here's a quote from the decision. This is big, folks. Big stuff. Although Congress has indisputably given OSHA the power to regulate occupational dangers, it has not given the agency the power to regulate public health more broadly, requiring the vaccination of 84 million Americans selected simply because they work for employers with more than 100 employees certainly falls in the latter category. You can't just use OSHA as your cat's paw to get the big state Democrats what they want without having to at least go on the record, vote on it, and pass it through legislation. Let's see those libs in Congress say they're going to force people to get the shot or get fired. Let's see them put their names to it. Let's see them go on the record for it, right? But no, the Democrats try to use the administrative stay, trying to do what they can to avoid accountability while having all the power. They want the upside, not the downside. Do this or else. Oh, but we're not making you do it. It's just OSHA, you see. Most people don't even think about OSHA ever in their lives. Like, what? Aren't they the ones that tell you have to wear goggles if you're using an electric saw in a steel mill or something, right? That's usually what OSHA does. But no, now they wanted to use it as a federal agency to give a mandate to over 80 million people to get the shot or get tested, they keep saying, but they're going to make you get the shot. So a huge blow to the Biden regime's tyranny today. Good thing for America, yay. And it's just showing you that while the final ruling on the constitutionality of this is not yet official, you're going to have almost certainly a 6-3 breakdown again of the overall OSHA mandate is unconstitutional. The healthcare worker mandate seems that is able to stay in that specific context. And that's disappointing, but that's also not surprising. Where is the exception for natural immunity in all this? They pretend natural immunity doesn't exist because it complicates the narrative, which is obey or else. Speaking about the narrative, where is it on COVID, on Omicron variant these days? Well, there's a new study from Kaiser Permanente out on the West Coast in California, and this is what they showed, that Omicron is 53% less likely to have a symptomatic hospitalization, 74% less likely to put you in an ICU admission status, and 91% less risk of death. This is a much less dangerous disease than what we had been dealing with before, and that's a good thing. That means that everybody should just chill out a little bit, okay? It's going to be all right. Mother Nature's actually given us a big leg up on this one. This is actually the direction we want to be going. And I know there's a lot of cases. I know for some people it's still dangerous, but it's a small percentage compared to what the danger was before. We have therapeutics, we have vaccines. There should be a calming in the national conversation about this. But no, instead the Biden regime is panicked. Oh my gosh. We need more masks, double masks, better masks, more distancing, more shots, and more shots. Biden says, by the way, they're going to have a website set up to send you free COVID tests. They'll have this website up by next week, I guess. Watch.
And we're on track. We're on track to roll out a website next week where you can order free tests shipped to your home. And in addition to the 500 million, 500 million tests that are in the process of being acquired to ship to you homes for free, today I'm directing my team to procure an additional 500 million, additional 500 million more tests to distribute for free. I mean, 1 billion tests in total to meet future demand.
Why do we need 1 billion tests? What are we going to do with that? A billion with a B, folks, tests. Remember when they said we needed 1 million ventilators? I mean, this is just now what it seems politicians do. Oh, I'm going to have the most of the thing that it's not even clear we need anywhere near that number, but I'm going to be the one that says the biggest number. It doesn't make any sense at all. By the way, flashback to December. Biden promised that rapid tests would be going out in the beginning of January. Watch this.
And so will they have those rapid tests by when? By mid-January, by the end of January?
The answer is the expectation is it'll be by the rapid tests will start going out in the beginning of January because they're being produced now.
So they're a little late already. I got news for you. Probably gonna be late again. So who might have better answers on this one? Oh, the VP, Kamala Harris. What a mess of things she's always making. When she was asked whether tests should have been out sooner, instead of admitting the obvious reality, she just sticks right to the talking points, almost like a robot. Watch.
The 500 million tests that have been ordered that are going to be sent to every American, do we know when those are going out?
Shortly. They're going to go out shortly.
Next week,
They've been ordered. I have to look at the current information. I think it's going to be by next week. But soon. Absolutely soon. And it is a matter of urgency for us.
Should we have done that sooner?
We are doing it.
But should we have done it sooner?
We are doing it.
It's the middle of January, so if they get the tests out in a few weeks, yeah, be just in time for the COVID surge to be on the downslope and people won't care nearly as much about any of this. The incompetence is staggering, isn't it? Here's Vice President Harris, speaking of incompetence, with the weirdest answer you could imagine when asked, should you change trajectory here a little bit with the COVID policies of the Biden regime? She says, you got to hear it from her.
At what point does the administration say, you know what, this strategy isn't working, we're going to change strategies? 6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down.
What was? You catch that? Time to do the thing we're doing, and that time is the day we're doing the things we're doing? Something like that? That was great. Vice President, everybody. There you go. All right, President Biden's come under criticism for comments he made during his speech on voting rights in Georgia. We'll have more on that with host of Counterculture on the Epic Times, Danielle D'Souza Gill, in a moment. Let's talk about protecting your home right now. You've got homeowners insurance for a good reason. Without it, a fire, flood, or burglary could destroy you financially. There's another major crime your homeowner's policy doesn't cover. It's called home title fraud. The FBI says home title fraud is one of the fastest growing crimes. It can ruin you financially. This is why you need Home Title Lock. Title fraud happens when a criminal forges your signature on documents stating you sold your home to him. Then he takes out loans against your home and leaves you with the payments. You'll spend a fortune in legal fees trying to prove you didn't commit fraud. Home Title Lock puts a barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect anyone from a cyber thief to a renter to a relative trying to forge their way into your home's title, they help shut it down. Go to HometitleLock.com and register your address to see if you're already a victim. Enter radio for 30 free days of protection. That's code radio at HometitleLock.com. We'll be right back with more. Hold the line. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki took aim at critics of President Biden's speech on voting rights, calling objections to his vitriolic tone, quote, hilarious. Watch.
I know there has been a lot of claim of the offensive nature of the speech yesterday, which is hilarious on many levels, given how many people sat silently over the last 4 years for the former president. But I would note that in our view and the president's view, what is far more offensive is the effort to suppress people's basic right to exercise who they want to support and who they want to elect. That's not a partisan thing.
I mean, just Ridiculous. Psaki's remarks come after Biden's speech promoting election overhaul legislation was characterized by many as combative and aggressive. Oh boy. Here with reaction, host of Counterculture with Danielle D'Souza Gill on the Epic Times, Danielle D'Souza Gill. Danielle, good to see you.
But great to see you.
Before we get into the Jen Psaki, actually, can you just give me your, because this was the breaking news from just a few hours ago of the day. The OSHA mandate struck down in a stay. It's not a final ruling, but the Supreme Court has said it looks likely to prevail on the merits, the objection to the OSHA ruling. It feels like another giant loss for the Biden administration and its lack of respect for the Constitution and basic freedom. It's a good thing for America, though.
It really is. And the great thing is we didn't have one conservative defect on that. We had a little bit with the healthcare workers and government facilities. But when it comes to everyone else, when it comes to people who are working at companies of 100 people or more that Biden was trying to control, was trying to put this mandate upon, the Supreme Court really said no. So I feel really, really great about it. And I think so many Americans are just seeing how, the government is just going to be stopped by the Supreme Court.
It's amazing to watch as the Biden media spins and spins and tries to suggest. I saw CNN today, Danielle, right as this broke, all of a sudden they had to tell us about, as soon as there was the breaking news of the Supreme Court decision, all of a sudden they switched to North Korean missile tests show increasing capability. It's like, wait, what is this? Was this a headline from 6 months ago, 6 years ago? It's pretty funny to watch how they do it. But what else are they going to do? The Biden regime is in free fall. And that's why I suppose they figure they've got to at least go and get the base riled up. Hence the Joe Biden speech of a few days ago. Here's Nancy Pelosi, of course, praising a speech in which Biden said things like those who oppose him on this voting rights legislation are on the side of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. Here's Pelosi's take. Watch.
And do you think that the president may have gone a little bit too far in trying to sell this particular bill to the American people and trying to get votes to try and get this passed by breaking the filibuster?
No, I stand with the president. I think that I thought his speech was wonderful, and I stand with him in the fight for voting rights.
Federalize elections, Danielle, or else you're with the Confederates. That's how Biden views things, and Pelosi thinks it's fantastic.
Yes, that's Nancy Pelosi's reaction when she doesn't know what else to say. It's fantastic. But, I think that when it comes down to it, Biden is basically saying, hey, if you don't agree with me, if you don't go with this Voting Rights Act, you're basically a racist, you're basically a segregationist. And, the ironic thing, of course, is that the Democrats, they were the party of segregation. And he mentioned Abraham Lincoln, who, of course, was a Republican, and I'm sure would be disgusted by this. And this Voting Rights Act has absolutely nothing to do with race. No one is being prevented from voting. We haven't seen anyone come forward saying, hey, I tried to vote, but I was prevented from voting. No, this is their way of trying to get mail-in ballots through. That's listed as one of the things that they want to get through. And so, the Democrats could be focusing on helping the American people. They could be focused on passing other things that apparently they want to pass, but instead are on a suicide mission to focus on this Voting Rights Act, because I think they know in the midterms they're going to get hit really hard. So they're seeing it as, hey, how do we win ahead of time and make sure we focus on voting instead of actual things that we want to do?
We've seen two sides of President Biden from his campaign trail to his first anniversary in office. Remember early on in the 2020 election, it was Joe Biden presented as America's cuddly grandpa who was just going to hold all of our hands as he made things normal again and made the big bad COVID go away. And he wasn't going to be a big meanie like Donald Trump. And it wasn't really the case at all when Joe Biden got into office that he sought to unify anything. Here is yesterday he gave that speech about voting rights. It was incredibly divisive. Watch this.
How do you want to be remembered? At consequential moments in history, they present a choice. Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? This is the moment to decide, to defend our elections, to defend our democracy.
It's interesting, Danielle, because he's bringing up Democrats there as the bad guys. Of course, a lot of people don't know that history. It's not the same Biden who promised to be America's president across the board. This is what he was saying on the campaign trail. I wanted to have you react to it.
I'm running as a proud Democrat. but I'm going to govern as an American president. I'm going to work as hard for those who don't support me as those who do.
Not so much.
Yeah, I mean, that line on the campaign trail, he ripped that off from Obama. Obama said that when he won for his presidency, he said, I will be your president too, even if you didn't vote for me. So I think Biden just couldn't really think of anything else to say. But at this point, we obviously know Biden isn't calling the shots. It's really all of his advisors and other people around him. I mean, whether Biden's a cuddly grandpa, a little questionable, he's more like sniffer in chief at this point. But honestly, Biden doesn't really know what's happening. And I think that at this point, the Democrats, they're in such big trouble for 2022 and then 2024. Not only is Biden so unpopular, so is Harris at this point. So I think that's why they're so focused on trying to affect our elections with this voting rights bill.
What do you think of this talk that's been going on of a possible big switch up in the Democrat top ranks here, with maybe Biden not running for a second term, maybe Kamala being even appointed to the Supreme Court to sideline her, and then, yes, you've seen this, I'm sure, making the way for Hillary Clinton once again?
I'm sure Hillary Clinton loves that. But, I think that is absurd, because even if they tried to put someone on the Supreme Court, that wouldn't be possible. That would involve Breyer stepping down literally like this year. And I don't think that would happen. Breyer has talked about the fact that he's not going to step down just because of politics. So the idea of Kamala Harris on the Supreme Court is just unfathomable. I don't even think that she could necessarily run for president if Biden does step down or something like that. I think that the Democrats are in a real pickle, because they thought Kamala Harris was going to be this shining star. Everything was handed to her on a silver platter, basically, as this first female vice president. But she really blew it, because she turned out to be quite a dud who doesn't even know how to interact with the American people.
Always good to see you, Danielle. Thanks for your perspective.
Thank you.
We're just talking about it. With Joe Biden's popularity reaching historic lows, that's right, there's an old face reemerging as a potential candidate for the Democratic nomination in 2024. I know this seems crazy, folks, but it's a crazy world we're living in. Hillary Clinton. I know. Could a rematch of the 2016 campaign actually be on the horizon? We'll talk to the chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, when we come back. But first, I want to talk to you about protecting your online data. A lot of companies promise your privacy is guaranteed, but we know that's not true. That's why you need a new privacy and cybersecurity application tool called Secure. It's spelled S-E-K-U-R. Secure is using proprietary encryption and is offering secure instant messaging and email. With Secure, all of your communication is based on servers and data centers hosted in Switzerland without using any of the big tech platforms. Privacy is a big issue now. Without real security, people can read your emails, messages, and even your bank information. Secure will never mine your data and never asks you for your phone number. You can send emails to your doctor, banker, lawyer, or anyone else with total confidence you're not being spied on by your internet provider or big tech. Secure is your solution to stop the constant theft of your digital identity. It only costs $5 for the messenger, only $10 for the messenger and email combination package. Go to secure.com and take back your privacy today. That's SEKUR.com. Use promo code BUCK for 25% off. We'll be right back with more Hold the Line. Oh, would you look at that? Biden's approval rating dropped again in the latest Quinnipiac poll to 33%. This is a whopping 17% point drop from February, an indication of American voters' deep dissatisfaction over his administration's response to rising inflation and a resurgence of COVID-19. Biden's approval rating, according to the poll, hasn't gone above 40% since mid-September. What a shock. Joining me now is Matt Schlapp to talk about the nonsense of the Biden regime, the inept administration, the free fall they're in. It's kind of amazing, not surprising, worth discussing. Matt, good to see you.
Good to be with you, Buck.
I thought the Biden regime or the Biden candidate got the most votes ever of any president in history. But what happened? Take a look at the massive decrease in the percentage since September. We've seen his numbers drop from 49% to 33%. At the same time, right. Biden's disapproval rating in the survey has risen from 17 points to a low of 36 in February. What the heck is going on?
So you put your finger on it, Buck. It's mathematically impossible that the most popular president or presidential candidate, basically in modern history, would have the lowest polling numbers that we've really ever seen, maybe lower than Spiro Agnew. I mean, we really got to pull out our bag of tricks to find someone to compare it to. So I agree completely with what you're saying. It shows you that the whole thing was kind of a faux, a whole faux branding of Joe Biden. He really was never that popular. He didn't really run a race. They did bamboozle enough people into thinking that he had what it took. And his problem is now that he's in office and he's looking at these numbers and his people are looking at these numbers, Buck, what do? You can't put Biden out to say or do anything. And Kamala Harris is, less popular than cancer. And who's their cabinet? Do you even know who the Secretary of HHS is? We know who the Secretary of Transportation is because he basically didn't go to work for a long time. There are no people from the Biden administration out there owning and trying to solve these problems except for Anthony Fauci.
Here's CNN's Abby Phillip. So anyone over at CNN, as we know, is supposed to, as part of their job, do everything they can to help the Biden administration. But even she's saying Biden's lack of leadership handling this ongoing crisis, quote, erodes confidence in the administration. You don't say. Watch.
From the perspective of the American public, they're looking at the Biden administration and they're asking, do you guys know what you're doing? Do you guys have a handle on these problems? And there's a perception now that they don't. Americans will weather inflation. They will weather some of this stuff if they feel like the leadership has it under control. But right now, it seems like the Biden administration is just, they're lurching from one extreme to another and saying that they are not anticipating things that people are telling them are coming their way. And that is, I think, that's a perception problem that erodes confidence in the administration from a political perspective.
You don't say.
Yeah, I got to give Abby a little credit that I would agree with many of the things she said. Here's the problem once again for the Biden administration, because Joe Biden's mind isn't in the game and because they have ceded the party to these extremists. That's why Bernie Sanders and AOC were on board with the Biden administration, because it's that socialist base of the party that gets to make all the policy decisions. And Joe Biden doesn't have the oomph to stand up and say, no, I'm the leader of the party. We're going to do things that are good for working men and women. We're not going to be extreme. Even Barack Obama, who I think is a Marxist, would say, no, that's too far. The American people won't accept it, especially after Obamacare passed and was so unpopular. Bill Clinton famously said the era of big government is over and told his wife to be quiet after she tried to get health care done. Democrat presidents succeed when it looks like they're being a little more in the center. And Joe Biden's administration has lurched left on anything. And I don't think he has what it takes as a leader to tell the base of his party to shut up.
Matt, Democrats are starting to talk a little bit, writing in the Wall Street Journal, Doug Schoen and the other guy, I forget his name, but whatever.
I read it.
Yeah, about a Clinton 2024 presidential run. That's the case that was made by those two Democrats I mentioned. They said a perfect storm of President Biden's plummeting job approval ratings, Vice President Kamala Harris's unpopularity, and the fact that Joe Biden is, let's just be honest, too old for the job has set up this situation. I mean, do you think this really could provide an opening for Hillary Clinton, former First Lady, former Secretary of State? And I mean, could this really be the third time she goes for it, and maybe even the time that she wins? I mean, it seems like a crazy world we're living in. Is this too insane to even ponder at this point?
And unlike the Trump administration, where there was all this speculation of Jared and Ivanka and Don Jr. and all these other kids, nobody's talking about Hunter Biden maybe stepping in here for sure. I think it's really interesting. I can't remember the other guy's name either who wrote the article. Doug Schoen, longtime pollster for the Clinton family. And I think it's interesting. It shows you how kind of sneaky the Clinton people are, because I do think they were good with Joe Biden swiping that nomination in that strange way in which all the Democrats out of nowhere just dropped out of the race, even though they had plenty of money in the bank. That was clearly a Obama inside job. And so Joe Biden gets the presidency, but he's not up to the job. And Kamala Harris, I guess they knew her, Buck. I didn't know her except how mean she was to Brett Kavanaugh. But my God, she's a terrible politician. And people have just rejected her. And they won't put her out hardly at any time with anyone. So it sets up this question of who's to be that next Democratic leader. It's not Nancy Pelosi. She's 81 years old. Who's it going to be? Hillary.
Here's from the article, by the way, Matt. Quote, she's already in an advantageous position to become the 2024 Democratic nominee. She's an experienced national figure who is younger, a little bit, than Mr. Biden, and can offer a different approach from the disorganized and unpopular one the party is currently taking. What's amazing to me is that I don't think anyone laughs at this idea because the Biden regime is straight up tanking. I mean, that's just what's happening. I mean, even the Democrats who want to do everything they can to prop this guy up will lie to people's faces. They're not going to lie if they know no one's going to buy it, including their own side, right? They got to at least have something plausible. Feels like we're heading into some crazy times here with the Biden administration not able to keep it going.
I mean, I kept thinking, will it be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden? Will it be Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris? Will it be Ron DeSantis or somebody of that next generation stepping in? And now I keep thinking, could it be Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton all over again? I mean, have I lived a good enough life to get a replay of that race, Buck? I can't imagine that this is actually how it might go down.
Be good for our business. I'm not sure it'd be good for America, but hey, Matt, always appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Buck.
Looks like efforts to stifle criticism of critical race theory in schools around the country were more widespread than we initially thought. Coming up, there are emails initially reported by Fox News from the National Education Association, and it shed some light on the social media companies urging them to fight against what they called anti-CRT propaganda. We got more on this with the Vice President of Parents Defending Education, Azra Nomani, when we come back. The National Education Association joined in on attacks against parents who are fighting to keep critical race theory out of schools. Just after the National School Board Association sent that infamous letter to the White House in which they compared concerned parents to domestic terrorists, the NEA urged social media giants like Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok to confront the so-called anti-CRT propaganda, writing in a letter, quote, the alarming growth of a small but violent group of radicalized adults who falsely believe that graduate-level courses about racism are being taught in K-12 public schools because of misinformation spread on social media. Joining me now is someone fighting against these radical school board groups, parent advocate and vice president of strategy and investigation at Parents Defending Education, Azra Nomani.
Oh, thanks so much, Buck. Appreciate it.
Okay, just first give us a sense of the problem here and some of the players involved. I mean, people have heard this. It's kind of hard to keep it all straight. So there was the National School Board Association reaching out directly to the Department of Education under the Biden regime, and now the National Education Association is involved as well. What was going on here?
It's a machine. Basically, that's what I've been able to figure out over the last 2 years almost of reporting on this issue. At the beginning, I thought that there's just a bunch of activists, who were trying to get their indoctrination into the public school system. So, Buck, I don't know if you know this, but like yourself, I've chased terrorists around the world. My colleague, Danny Pearl, was kidnapped and murdered 20 years ago this month in Pakistan. And I know you've been on the forefront, of fighting extremists in the world. Well, at the beginning, I thought it was just a bunch of extremists, activists. And the truth is that what we understand now is that there is a machine. You could call it the woke industrial complex because it is companies like contractors shelling out this kind of indoctrination into our schools, but they are working together with union officials, industry groups like the School Board Association, and now, unfortunately, government. And so it's state-sponsored indoctrination. And that is why it is so alarming when they try to shut down the one defenders that we have of children, pure and sacred parents. And so I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Azra, multiple student and parents advocacy groups are now calling for the NEA and the NSBA, National School Board Association, right, to apologize for their crude description of concerned parents and their efforts to seemingly hijack away from them their parental rights and use the federal bureaucracy and even the FBI to do that. So tell us about how that movement's going.
Oh, it's absolutely phenomenal and inspiring because if anybody's been a parent, they know that you endure every humiliation when you're a parent. You go through the terrible twos, you go through the temper tantrums, and then you go through teen years. And we are unstoppable in our defense of children. And so whatever smear they throw on us, however they try to shut us down through social media, we will prevail. And that is what's been so remarkable. I mean, we have parents from Oregon to Maine who are just standing up with such moral courage. And you know what they're doing, Buck? You know how it is. You follow the money, you file these Freedom of Information Act requests, and that's how we got this, real smoking gun. It was our president at Parents Defending Education, Nikki Neely, who just fired off a bunch of FOIA requests to the school board members that are on the School Board Association. And guess what? That's where we discovered that there was this colluding going on between the School Board Association and the Justice Department, the White House, and now the Education Secretary. I mean, it's just phenomenal and just diabolical, really. And we're going to continue until we get answers to every question, because so far, as you might have heard, the Attorney General has tap danced around his responsibilities. So has the Education Secretary. They're refusing to take ownership about this collusion that they participated in against parents. But we're going to make sure that they're held accountable.
What is Parents Defending Education looking to do? Can you tell us more about the group that you are the Vice President of Strategy and Investigation for, and what the mission set is?
Well, so we are literally parents defending education. We are defending children. So I was a reporter at the Wall Street Journal for 15 years. We have a mom, Erica Sanzi, who is a teacher. We have Nikki Neely, who's another mother, and she has been working so much in the nonprofit world, standing up for free speech. So we are doing what we have our talents in the world to do. We are helping parents expose the indoctrination. We are helping parents engage with policymakers, and we are helping parents advocate for their children. And we have documented now hundreds of incidents of this critical race theory indoctrination in our schools. We call it an indoctrination map. We have filed hundreds of FOIA requests, documented $12 million in contracts in school districts around the country of this woke industrial complex. And guess what? We've signed up and put on our map 200 parent groups. They're all working independently out there in the world, many of them using Facebook, and that's why the teachers union wants to shut them down. But they are just completely unrelenting. They are persevering, and they're doing it because nobody gets between a mama bear and a papa bear and their cub.
Do you think your group, Parents Defending Education, is going to be able to expose more of what's going on, such that it might actually affect the trajectory of the midterm elections that are coming up at the end of this year?
Oh, absolutely. We know that we impacted the Virginia governor's election as parents. I'm talking to you right now from Fairfax County, Virginia. Literally across the street from me is the border for Loudoun County, Virginia. And it was Northern Virginia that decided the governor's race. And it was parents that were the deciding vote. And so this has ignited parents around the country to know that they can have an impact on elections. And of course, the midterm is the big one coming up. We have to clean house, right, in government right now. And the House of Representatives will be up for grabs. And there's an expected win by lawmakers who are with us against critical theory indoctrination. And parents are going to make sure that they get elected into office now, the kind of policymakers who actually listen to us. We've been humiliated. Tonight, Buck, I'm going to be going to my school board to speak for 2 minutes. It's less time than I'm able to even share with your viewers. And it's gotten me sick to my stomach all day thinking about it. But I'm going to do it because they have to hear from us, the parents, and they're going to definitely hear from us at the ballot box.
Azra, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Buck. Thanks for spotlighting the parent movement, and thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you. Joy Reid's MSNBC show hits a new low with one guest claiming Republicans believe they own black people. It's actually said on MSNBC. My God. Maybe this is why her show is getting canceled. Well, the video for you in tonight's Quick Hits. Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema delivers a great defense of the Senate filibuster, and Joy Reid's MSNBC show hits a new low. We got those stories coming up in Quick Hits. Let's get right to it. Sinema's a Democrat. Now, generally, you think of Democrats as just willing to go along with whatever the party wants. They tend to have tremendous discipline. They move as part of the collective, and they move almost like the Democrat mob, right? They don't break from the Pelosi-Schumer consensus, except sometimes, apparently, they do. Right now, there's a huge push underway from Joe Biden as well as senior Democrats in Congress to have a break in the filibuster, a one-time break so that they can get through the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would be part of the effort of the federal government right now to federalize elections. It's not the way it's supposed to be, and there'll be all kinds of restrictions on voter ID and other voting integrity measures, and they don't have the votes for it, so they want to change the rules to make it seem like they have the votes for it. And Democrat from Arizona, Sinema, says, not so fast. Watch.
This shift of power back and forth means the Senate 60s vote threshold has proved maddening to members of both political parties in recent years, viewed either as a weapon of obstruction or a safety net to save the country from radical policies, depending on whether you serve in the majority or the minority. But what is the legislative filibuster other than a tool that requires new federal policy to be broadly supported by senators representing a broader cross-section of Americans, a guardrail, inevitably viewed as an obstacle by whoever holds the Senate majority, but which in reality ensures that millions of Americans represented by the minority party have a voice in the process.
Okay, so Sinema standing on principle, doing something good, I think, for the country there. And then you just kind of got to hear this analysis from over at MSNBC about, well, I don't know, here, just you can see for yourself. Check this out.
Most African Americans in this country still live in the states where their ancestors were enslaved, right? If you look at the top states of African American population by population, you'll see Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. Like, those are the states. It ain't California. It ain't New York. It ain't Minnesota. When these white people in these states are talking about leaving, they're talking about leaving and taking their black people with them. These policies exist for the benefit of the white cis hetero males in charge, and it's not free for anybody else, not for the black people, not for the brown people, not for the women in these states.
This is the stuff that's on MSNBC. All right, USA Today, speaking media stuff, tweets what appears to be a little bit of a defense of, or at least a downgrading of pedophilia as a term here. Here's the quote. When most of the public thinks of pedophilia, they assume it's synonymous with child sexual abuse. A pedophile is an adult who is sexually attracted to children, but not all pedophiles abuse kids, and some people who sexually abuse kids are not pedophiles. USA Today has since deleted the tweet because, oh my God. Anyway, this is what the elite media brings to you, folks. And then during a Dallas City Council meeting, one man gave the... Okay, so this guy is actually a comedian, just so everyone knows. So he does this. As I understand it, this is something that he is known for. But it's a rap performance, and it's pretty amusing. Watch.
Vaccinate. You gonna get corona from Mona. Don't vaccinate. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. You gotta vaccinate in the Lone Star State. Vaccination is so great. Vaccinate me all day long. Vaccinate your daddy and mom. Vaccinate my body. Vaccinate me at the party. A vaccine dream. I love the vaccine all day long. I want to vaccinate your mom. I want to stick it deep in your arm. Oh my, where are you? I want to vaccinate you.
Okay. That's it for tonight's Hold the Line. The No Spin News with Bill O'Reilly is next. Shields high.